and welcome to Therabytes, where we bring you bite-sized episodes, each one a piece of the puzzle that helps to explain the therapy world, the research behind it all, and how it relates to families. Hello, my name is Dr. Dana Poole. I'm a physiotherapist and the clinical lead at the Healthy Strides Foundation. It is my privilege to be hosting this podcast, one that is directed for parents of children with neurodisabilities. We hope to be able to answer some of your questions through this format. But to navigate our way through these big questions, we have the one and only, the lovely Naresha co-hosting this podcast. Welcome, Naresha.
Thanks, Dana. Another great day.
Another great day, another great episode.
Definitely.
I love it. It's really good.
Yeah.
So here we go again. Another big question. I can tell by the look on your face it's a relatively serious one. So before you get into it, I'm going to just share some new research, which I feel like it's a completely
You've got me
different take.
hyped up for this serious matter, and it's like, okay.
Well, you know me. I don't stay serious for very long.
Yeah.
So I always like to share some new research. So did you know that there is actually documented and immense health benefits to human-animal interactions, especially dogs? I say this as my dog sits next to us at the moment, sleeping, so hopefully he doesn't snore. But in a new study from the Konkuk University in South Korea, now this is published in PLOS ONE, which is a really big journal, the researchers have uncovered that engaging in specific activities with dogs can increase brain activity in areas associated with relaxation, emotional stability, attention, and concentration.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And it can reduce stress and foster positive emotional responses. It feels like they're the cure for all things, mental health and cognitive function. But, I think I see truth in that because I do like to – my dog's not a particularly cuddly dog, even though he's very fluffy. He doesn't really like people touching him, which is a shame because I force myself on him all the time. But it's because I do get those responses at the end.
Yeah, that's right.
But I do think it does relate to cats as well. They do say it's with human interaction.
Yeah, I've got cats.
Yep.
But I don't interact with her very much. But she knows I love her because I feed her.
But that's cats though, right?
Yeah, but I think that's also because
independent.
I didn't grow up around pets. Like my parents weren't pet people.
Right, okay.
So it's like then obviously my family, they had to have a cat because he loves having cats, right? Apparently it soothes him. He says it's very relaxing.
Well, there you go.
So, yeah,
there's
clearly
the
that
actual
shows
thing.
it.
Yeah, and there's actually brain interactions to show that. So
but now I have to.
now you have to do the work.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah.
I'll get there.
I love that. It's so funny. So we've been having a bit of a theme of things that can change the brain lately. So be around green spaces and get a pet.
Yeah.
And have a parent look after the pet for you.
That's great.
Basically how it works.
Yeah, I know, right? No, that sounds good. Good plan.
All right. What question do you have today?
Okay. Today I have a serious topic and also from our previous chats about treatment.
Yes. Okay.
So I've heard stem cells. Stem cells treatment.
Yes.
I mean, obviously knowing that CP is a long-term condition.
Yes.
No real cure.
Yeah.
How does stem cell
gosh.
do things to CP?
That's a really
for
big
CP
question.
children?
Okay. So stem cells has been sort of in our talk and conversation for a long time now. And it's in a place where we're hoping it can actually enter treatment spaces because of how exciting it is.
Okay.
So over the last 15 years, they've been doing...
But wait. My understanding of stem cells is only from watching Hollywood movies, right? I love action movies.
Yeah.
I watch Blade and even Aliens. And I know how sometimes there's like blobs of, I'm assuming they're cells or blood, right?
Blobs,
Obviously trying to to recreate.
Yes.
Trying to recreate a mutated version of themselves, either whether it be a good or a bad version. Anyway, it just turns out to be all bad and they end up fighting each other anyway. So I get it.
And everything gets us. Okay, so I think that's why stem cells has been so poorly understood because it has been in Hollywood so much of all these different things. And you're like, is this even real?
Yep.
What is it? But it's actually been in so much medical research for decades now.
Really?
Decades upon decades in different areas. And it really entered the world a lot in cerebral palsy just over 15 years ago when they started doing clinical trials in them.
Okay.
So there's been over 15 years of clinical trials using stem cells. And the main reason for it is because they've been really identified as being a anti-inflammatory.
Okay.
So as so long, we've been understanding that, obviously cerebral palsy is a brain injury that does happen. It can happen at birth. It can happen a few years after birth. So it's the definition, under that 5 years. And when an injury happens, there's an inflammatory process that happens. Just like if you were to injure any part of your body, you get inflammation.
Yep, that red stuff.
Like the red soreness look, right? So all these cells flood the area and it becomes quite inflamed. Okay. And what we've recently discovered is that children with cerebral palsy have prolonged inflammation.
Okay.
So knowing this has provided a new treatment target, reducing inflammation.
Wow.
And this is something that is so new. It's a paradigm shift. And so that's why stem cell therapy has been something that's been investigated so much over the last 15 years. In fact, over the 15 years, it's been studied in over 2,400 children with cerebral palsy, which in fact is more than many clinical trials combined, right? So they've actually put it all together, and we can talk more about the details of different stem cells, but the main target there is the anti-inflammatory component.
Okay.
If you can reduce the inflammation that happens in the brain and in the body, you can see improvements in gross motor outcomes.
Oh,
right.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Good news.
Yeah, really, really exciting news. Yeah.
So where do those cells come from? Like, obviously, our whole body is full of cells, right?
Yes, that's right.
So is there a particular
type of cell? Yeah, it's a really good question.
That's useful?
There's 4 main types that have been really the subject of a lot of investigation. So you've got umbilical cord blood, and that can either happen from the person itself or from a sibling. Okay. But you can also get it from all different sources as well. So umbilical cord blood is one. It is a combination of mesenchymal cells, which is joint and fat tissue, and also hematopoietic stem cells. I never say it right. Or HSC. So I'm just going to call it HSC from now on. That's all I've ever called it. So HSCs are from bone marrow. They're blood cells.
Okay.
So they're the main ones that are just circulatory through the body, and they produce the strongest anti-inflammatory response.
Okay.
Umbilical cord blood more than any. That's actually been found to be more effective than even mesenchymal, which is the joint cells.
Yep.
So they are the main cells that have been really investigated. Umbilical cord has over 800 children have been in those studies.
Right.
And they've found to have the best effect on prolonged inflammation. So this is for children who might not just be at birth receiving cord blood. This might be 4-year-olds to 8-year-olds because of the prolonged inflammation. Even as old as 8 or 10 years of age, you still have inflammation, which is why it's exciting from a treatment target perspective. So they're the ones that have a treatment effect that reduces inflammation, and that's delivered by like a bag, like you're getting a drip. And it kind of just goes into the body. It gets circulated around the body, and the body flushes it out. But it has its anti-inflammatory effect. So you can have this a few times.
Right.
Kind of like Botox. You come in for a Botox, injection, and this one you'd have some cord blood, and then you'd be discharged. So it's pretty much like a day procedure kind of thing. Now, the other one that's been, the one that people have been very interested in is slightly more complicated to use, but it's neural stem cells, neural as in brain.
Yep. And
so neural stem cells are injected kind of like right into the brain by a neurosurgeon. So it's very, very specific. Because they're brain cells, they get delivered to that area. That's where the potential, the hope for a cure might be. Stem cells redeveloping themselves in an area of a brain injury.
Right.
But the tricky part of neuro stem cells is that you have to source them from somewhere. And so if you need brain tissue, that means you need to get brain tissue from another source.
Right.
So you obviously can't.
But it can be from any source.
Well,
it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be from the same person.
Yeah, same family member or anything like that.
It doesn't have to be.
Right.
But the biggest problem with that is still harvesting brain cells without harming the person providing them. So it usually comes from, a baby that didn't quite make it, and the parents might donate their brain, for example, for use in this. But because it is directly injected into the brain site, you do need to use those like anti-rejection drugs for it, because the body is going to go, hey, these do not belong to me.
Right. Yeah.
And so you do need to have those drugs. And most of the side effects that happen from stem cells isn't from stem cell itself. It's very, very safe. There's no adverse events from stem cells. It's the anti-rejection drugs, the response to that can be problematic. Okay. So that's the main thing to watch out for. So those are the types of stem cells. So umbilical cord blood, mesenchymal, the hematopoietic, HSC. I probably still didn't say it right. Too many vowels. They're circulatory. They get administered, have an anti-inflammatory response. And the neural stem cells are the brain cells that get injected straight at the site for the potential of a cure. Yeah.
And it's all very safe.
All safe. So in the over 2,400, there's been no adverse events being reported from it. So, but it's all from the anti-rejection drugs. Right. So that's the main thing to watch out for.
Sounds very exciting.
Very exciting.
So again, the age group?
Age group has mostly been looked at in the younger group, but they have been looking at kids as old as, I think, up to 8 and 10 years of age as well. Right. And there's also potential for neurostem cells in adults potentially too. So there's been some talk and some investigations on that too. Oh, okay. And that area has a whole lot of literature around it.
Wow. Yeah. So I guess the next question, I mean, obviously it gives us all a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, it does. It's exciting.
But when we're talking about a glimmer of hope, does that mean that, I guess, depending on the funding, if we do get any funding, does it even exist in Australia yet?
Yeah, so that's a really, really good question. So at the moment, there's no centre anywhere in the world that is an approved place to provide stem cell therapy. So that's why there is this thing called stem cell tourism, where you might hear about people going to different parts of the world to get stem cell treatment. Right. Now, wherever it is that they're not going to a place that is actually approved. Okay. So it's just important that if you do go down that path and you've got umbilical cord blood and you want to use it in your child, it's just to make sure that it's safe. Yep. Stem Cell Australia has a full handbook on things that you should be asking. Okay. Are you going to monitor my child? Where do the stem cells come from? Are they human?
That's good.
Sometimes they're not human and there's been really adverse things from that. So it's scary. You want to make sure you know what's being provided. Some people bring their own umbilical cord blood with them so they know what's going in. Right. So at the moment, there's nowhere that's approved. It is going through the process in the FDA in the US, and we believe it's just around the corner from an Australian perspective, so they're going to approve it. They've been fighting for it for a really long time. So when it does happen, who knows what it'll look like, what will be funded, what will happen from it. But it's just something that's worth just starting to have conversations about, because the part I haven't covered yet is the results of it in a meta-analysis in over 2,400 children. Yep. They found that stem cells was as effective as rehab therapy. So think of all the hours you're spending on therapy.
Yeah, that's right.
You're getting as much of that because it's anti-inflammatory. That's just the effect of inflammation. Yep. But they do believe there's an interaction effect. So they do think that obviously having the anti-inflammatories as well as doing the therapy, because my point would still be you still can't learn how to drive a car unless you learn how to drive a car. Like you can't be given a drug to reduce the inflation, you know how to do it. You still need to learn it. Yep. So the combination
is still important. So you still have to have the rehab.
You probably do, but
just
maybe
like
not as much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Botox would be a different thing. Botox would be more for spasticity.
Oh, okay.
So a different kind of thing again. But if this gets approved, everything we know in terms of how much, what effect should we expect, they change.
It's exciting.
But how exciting is that?
That's exciting.
New research frontiers. So, keep an eye out for it.
Wow. Well, thanks for the clarification.
You're very welcome.
I mean, in my 7 years of having to be in the CP environment, I haven't heard anything such as this. So this is an eye-opener.
It is.
Something to look forward to.
Yep.
And keep our ears and eyes open.
Absolutely. And look, we will keep a good look at this as well. We will be keeping an eye on everything that's happening here, and we'll communicate this to everyone as things get approved. And I think that's a really important point. And if you want more information, I think the best thing to also go to, like we've really summarized this, but we spoke to Professor Iona Novak on the ResearchWorks podcast. It's actually episode 128, and we go into it a whole lot more detail. So, and she'll probably say the HSC far better than I just did then. But it's a really good episode. You listened to it,
I did have a listen to it just to grasp on what stem cells is all about.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting listen.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Makes me happy.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. And hopefully we've broken it down a little bit there for you to sort of just, get some knowledge around you and then start asking questions and talk to your team about it. But look, the science is there.
Definitely.
And the work has been done. Let's see where it goes.
I know.
Good
Thank
question.
you.
You're
Thanks.
very welcome. Very welcome. Well, keep those questions coming in. We love having these conversations. But for now, we'll talk to you all again next time. Bye.